What? Right, that is recording. So share the screen. I do love my theme tune. Thank the people who write it. Yet again, another pleasure to have another member of this distinguished fraternity of Salvationist composers from the international world of the Salvation Army. Ian Robinson, welcome to the collective.
Thank you. Great to be here.
Yeah, it's proving to be very interesting, these collections, and who takes up the opportunity to be grilled and cooked under the hot light of the Salvationist question time.
Yeah.
So thank you very much for taking the time, and plenty of very interesting titles and information to talk about. But first of all, the most important question I would like to ask is, do you have a musical background? I mean, do you come from a musical family?
I don't have any musical training. My mother was a pianist, that's all. And composing, not at all, though. That was all a surprise to me.
Okay, interesting. So did you get any training on the piano with your mother then? Or was it something?
I had a very short, very brief training or classes on the piano. But the problem was I wanted to do my own thing. Okay. You know, she was making me play hymn tunes out of the songbook, and you know, and I wanted to do different chords. I wanted to make it sound different, and so it didn't last very long. I'm really self-taught.
Okay, so when did you discover that composition and arranging tunes was something that you could do outside of the family living room, and that something that other people would make sense of?
All right. Outside of the family room, okay. We came to America in 1982, and when I started going to the Salvation Army in 1983. A couple of years later, the Corps, we were at Santa Ana Corps, they were making a musical for the International Youth Congress in Macomb, Illinois.
Yes, yeah.
And this was a big Saturday night spectacular. Joe Nolan was putting together an officer. Sorry?
Was it Son of Man? The 1983 Youth Congress, I think it was Son of Man, wasn't it?
1985.
Man Mark II then.
Yeah. But we were doing the Saturday night spectacular, and it was really telling the story of the Salvation Army. It was starting at creation and moving all the way through to having an open air on the moon. And this was the concept. So Joe needed a lot of background music and interludes and arrangements. So he approached Bill Gordon, who was in the Corps, and Bill said, "No, I don't do that kind of stuff. I don't do one-offs." So he said, "Ask Ian." I said, "What? I've never done this before." "Well, you can do it." He says, "You can do it." So I ended up doing, that's what I ended up doing, and going to a recording studio several times to record different parts on the synthesizer, the piano, and then writing music for vocals and band, and it just all came together.
So how long had you been writing before then? Had you been sort of experimenting at home just with private studies and to tinker around?
Not much. I'd written a couple of quartets when I was younger for our Corps. And then when I was out of the Salvation Army for a number of years, and I was playing in a folk rock band, a bass guitar, and I tried writing songs, but I was never very successful.
It's interesting. I was looking at your published song credential list, and you've got some really interesting titles in that. But the trouble is, I can't date vocal compositions. I can date brass compositions. And according to the official list, your first published composition was with Courage True, a March in the Triumph series.
What's it called?
With Courage True.
I've never written anything called With Courage True.
Huh? Then you got well, it says your name, Morning Star.
Morning Star, yeah, that was
That's
probably the first one.
1990. Well, lovely.
Right, that was
Yeah,
probably
that's one of the very tunes that I remember coming across and thinking, oh, this is interesting. Who's Ian Robinson? So how did you know? So bearing in mind that you started, you were experimenting with a folk rock band and you've done quartets. Is it something that you find comfortable doing, both brass and vocal?
yeah, particularly vocal. Obviously, because I've written a lot more songs than I've written brass pieces. Brass is a little bit more complicated, and I find it a little more difficult. But I do some, and I've still just finished another one, so working on it.
Yeah. So, what sort of was the initiation between Morning Star? Because that's a very unique style. It's almost kind of a Bill Gordon, Barry Gott style in there.
Yeah,
Was
yeah,
that just because these people were around and you were comfortable in that kind of idiom, or?
yeah. It was right about the time that we were all everybody was writing some swing stuff. Barry Gott started it, and Bill Himes and all the rest of them. Well, Bill Gordon asked me to write a piece for him to take to a music camp up in the north and west. So I wrote the first version of Morning Star
Mhm.
for him, but it wasn't. I didn't like it. So after he came back, I said, well, I'm going to change it. So I changed it around a little bit, and it just seemed to work. So eventually I sent it in for publication, and they took it.
Yeah. I, how easy was that to write from the standard kind of what people would say was a traditional Salvation Army band ensemble to writing a kind of a swing thing that would appeal to holiday clubs and youth clubs and music camps, but
Yeah.
it maybe wouldn't be seen outside of a praise meeting on a Sunday afternoon.
It's I find it easy to write swing. It's easier to write swing than other stuff,
Oh,
and I enjoy putting it together. Our band at Tustin Ranch plays all that kind of music, so I can get to hear it and make adjustments. And it's a good medium. I think a lot of bands do use it, use that kind
mhm,
of style of music. Maybe one item in a program.
yeah. Can you remember the first time that a band played one of your compositions?
Yes.
Go on.
I hate hearing my composition
Really?
for the
Okay.
first time, because our band, they don't sight read very well. So it tends to be a mess. And I'm sitting back cringing in the back row there, going,
Oh.
when they get it, eventually it sounds okay.
So, so when you were sort of developing your style, were there any kind of people that you looked up to who encouraged you in this way? I mean, you've already mentioned people like Bill Gordon, who,
Yeah, Bill Gordon was
but
one of the
were there
primary.
any other names that spring to mind that were influential and you felt were sort of a mentor, if you like, on your compositional style?
Well, Bill Himes was one
Okay.
because I really love all of his music. He's never written anything bad, so he has been a far off mentor, from Chicago to LA. And I imitate his style a little bit. Also, in not the swing stuff, in the regular stuff, I like Ken Downey, and I
Hmm.
kind of imitate his style as well. So those are the three main ones. All the others, the usual ones, Les Condon, Ray Stedman Allen, Eric Ball, they all had some kind of influence on my life. But those three were the biggest.
Yeah, I think Bill Holmes is a legend. It's funny you say Ken Downey because I think you both come from near enough to the same place, don't you, in Body, Scotland? But, yeah, when I was looking through the list and I was very much aware that you were you're known for your vocal compositions as well, and I knew that you'd done, and I hope this is right. He is Exalted, because I remember
Yes,
Martin Cordner told me about the band arrangement that he had to make that fitted the vocal arrangement so it could be
right.
sung, and that he
Mm,
managed when he came over with I think Regent Hall Band. They'd done a tour of California, and he was able to meet up with you.
yeah,
But I was listening to two or three of your pieces, and they've got that kind of functionality that I think a lot of composers have. It's a bright, sparky, cheer up
Mm.
number. Is that something that comes easy to you, or do you know, are you just kind of, that's what was written for, but you prefer sort of a devotional ilk kind of thing?
But you know, it's easier to write. It's easier to write the devotional music, quieter music, simpler. But upbeat music is what they want. It's what they need
Yeah,
at THQ. So that's the kind of stuff I try to write, and it comes once I get started, it comes fairly easily. The way it works is more often than not, I'll sit at the piano or the keyboard and start to fiddle around and play around and come up with something, and then I think I come up with a tune that maybe works. So then I'll look at my wife, I'll call her in and say, how do you think this is going to go? She looks and says, oh no, that doesn't work. So okay, scrap it, move on to something else. Finally, she'll give me some kind of a nod that, yeah, I could do something with that.
yeah.
So then we develop it from there.
Yeah, because it seems to be very much a partnership, that you're the music and she's the lyricist.
Yes,
So
yes,
is
very much.
that strict the case, or is it sometimes you have a suggestion for the lyrics and she might alter the music, or is it strictly sort of
Yeah, there's always a little
partnership?
there's always a little give and take. But I remember one occasion apparently that I wrote "Shout with Joy" or "Shout for Joy." I can't remember.
Shout with joy.
Okay, and I changed one word in the music without telling her.
Oh dear.
Put it to her. I gave it to her. She looked through it. She said, "You've changed it." I said, "It's only one word. You've changed it. The whole meaning. No, don't put my name on that." I said, "Come on, Isabel." So, no, don't put my name on it. So I scrunched up I was writing in manuscript in those days. Scrunched up the manuscript, threw it in the trash, and said, "Okay, then that's it, done." And I walked away. And about 2 hours later, I'm sitting thinking, I say, "Wait a minute, I put a lot of work into this song." So I pulled it out, straightened it out, put it back to the word that she wanted. And so we sent it in, it got published, and even got sung at the Albert Hall. So that was a good one.
So, obviously, I would guess that you started out with being a pen and paper guy, but is that always the case now, or is it a case of, you can have the music on the software package and then you just use the various tools at your disposal, or do you actually literally sketch out and then transfer, or what's your process?
No, I write it down. Now I use the software simply. I'll always use the software and all the various tools in it. I started with Finale for a while, but now I'm on Sibelius, and that seems to work for me. And also, it's better to do that because the music ministry unit are on Sibelius as well, so it's easy to send off to them. They can hear it and that sort of stuff.
I mean, you say that you don't like hearing your own music. But is that not the greatest critique, that you produce this piece of music and it's not until they breathe sounds in, because obviously on the computer every note is perfect and it's all in harmony and balance, and yet when the musicians get it, you get that real life sound of, okay, that's not working, and I need to improve on that.
Yeah.
So, are you a bad critic? A bad critic
of my own music?
Yeah.
No, not particularly. My wife is. And it's always fairly accurate. She'll tell me when something's not right, and I know it. I look at it and say, "Yes, you're right." So I'll change it. But I tend to just go on, and I tend to write it, and then that's it, done. I just don't want to touch it again. I don't want to keep working over to death.
Yeah. Is it something you find that comes easy? I mean, when you've got a commission or someone says we need something, do you kind of have to lock yourself away from the humdrum of all the music that we can have on the radio and the internet and YouTube and stuff, so you're not getting the earworm coming from the local advert and the jingle, and you're trying to keep it? I mean, how do you maintain originality, and how do you sit down and work it out? And do you lock yourself away, or what?
Yeah, I usually my keyboard's in my bedroom, so I usually go through there and work on it. The biggest fear that I've got is that what I'm writing has already been written. I don't know, I'm writing a tune and I think it sounds original to me, but maybe somebody's already done this, and I'm just I'm going to be taken to court for plagiarism or something like that. But usually it's fairly original, and I know, I also have a tendency to go back and write things I've already written, and then Isabel will point out to me, she said, "You've already done that." Oh yeah, that's right. Yeah, change it.
Does that kind of work if you're, you've got something that you've been working on and it's not working and it's not clicking, you put it to one side, and then later on that can be incorporated into a suite or something else? Does that happen very much?
Yes, it does happen. I don't usually destroy or throw away. Pardon me, I've got this throat thing going on. I don't usually get rid of any music. I keep it stored on the computer, and then I'll go back through it again and say, "Oh yeah, I could use that here, over here," and so that's what I do. That's what I do.
So, what are your lessons that you've learned in your career? Because obviously you started doing, from one end of the spectrum, and you're now sort of an accomplished and credited composer and arranger. So are there any kind of lessons that you remember learning along the way that were kind of light bulb moments and that were really significant in your career?
Yeah. One of the lessons I learned is that I'm the Melbourne staff band called it lollipops. I write lollipops.
Mm-hmm.
I don't write 15-minute extravagant, huge symphonies or heavy music. I write simple, straightforward, and write it for the listener. As Eric Lydson used to say, he writes for the little old woman in the back row.
Yeah.
And that's what you need to do. And so that all of my songs and all of my brass music is that with that intention. So I learned that fairly soon. I also learned that I can't write music outside of an army setting.
You can't.
Which is interesting. Can't. No.
Even coming from your rock band, folk rock experience.
No, it's weird because there was a big band leader who came to our corps in Santa Ana, and he heard Morning Star and all that stuff. So he came to me afterwards, and his name was Roland, and he said, "Ian, could you write something for my band? A swing number." I said, "I'll give it a go. I'll try." He said, "I'll pay you for it." I said, "Okay." So I'll give you $200. I said, "Okay, I'll do that." This was back in the 1980s. And he says, I said, what tune do you want? He says, "I want Michael Jackson's Heal the World." What? Heal the World? There's a swing number? Okay, I'll give it a try. And it took about 6 months, various attempts. And the end product I wasn't happy with, but he was wanting it soon. So I sent it off to him. I never heard it. I don't know if he ever used it, but after that, immediately after that, God just spoke to me and said, "I gave you the gift of writing and arranging music for me, not for you." So that was my lesson that I learned there. For His glory.
So you're very much do you consider yourself very much a sole army composer then? You've never sort of had people come up and say, "Can we have something for the local orchestra or school band?"
No. It's always been the army.
Yeah. So I mean, we've talked about mentorship and the names of Bill Himes and Ken Downey, but who are the musical heroes that you admire yourself? I mean, that you sort of learn from now, and whether they're not no longer with us or not, but, the music continues to inspire, and you kind of, oh my goodness, that's a new idea, and that may be 50 years old. Are there any names that spring to mind in that kind of ilk?
Well, actually, it's more in the classical field, like Elgar and Samuel Barber and Charles Ives. Those kind of people that have been a major influence on some things I've written. So yeah, those are my heroes. I would love to have written Nimrod. That if I'd only written that and nothing else, I'd be happy. Within the army, I think another one is Len Ballantyne. He's one of my heroes because he writes terrific music for songsters and for band, and it's just I love him, and I think he's great.
Yeah. I did know. I mean, you say you're very comfortable with the swing genre, and I wasn't really going to ask you about it because I find Christmas music tends to be a bit what we call Marmite. You either like it or you loathe it. But you done an arrangement called Gentleman's Carol, which 1994, which is yet again a swing version. Was that literally because the circumstances at the time you were with a band that liked playing and that could play that kind of music competently, or did it come out of a commission that somebody asked you and said, could you try and do this kind of genre?
No, we were with the band. They started just in 1994 would have been. I wasn't with the band anymore. I was becoming an officer by that time. But Justin Ranch Band, which I belong to now, liked to play that kind of stuff, and they do it every year. They do a concert or a program called the Real Gift, and in the Real Gift they put the band, the songsters, the singing company, the YP band. They all take part, and then there's a little dramatic scene in between times. So they asked me that year to write something for them. I think it was actually '93 they asked it, and so soon and very soon came to my mind, and that came out.
Because I've got two separate credits for Soon and Very Soon, which you don't normally find it published twice, but it's in the American Journal and the General series for some reason, and 2001 and 2003. But
as far as I know, the General series one is the only one by me. So I don't know. Bill Gordon did that arrangement as well. Yeah. So one of them might be his.
Yeah, it's possible, but they're identical credits. So one of the things I have mentioned is that when I do get a name come through, it's interesting to go back and find out that, you wrote that piece of music. And most people on here who've written this will know that I'm a massive Gowans and Larson fan, and you arranged To a God Like This as a kind of fanfare-y interlude thing.
Yeah.
Not one of the more popular numbers out of the musicals. It's a very odd one, but it's a very interesting take on one of the classics. But how did you approach that, knowing that many years ago the musicals were sacrosanct and we didn't have everywhere and we didn't have abundance, and the likes of Sam Creamer taking the Gowans and Larsons and turning them on their heads. So you were kind of, it was published 2004. Obviously that doesn't bear relation to when it was written and performed, but how did you approach that, knowing that the musicals were kind of elevated, set in stone?
Well, actually that happened because a friend of mine was the leader of the San Diego divisional band, and Sierra Del Mar, it's called Sierra Del Mar divisional band, and General Eva Burroughs was coming over to America for the first time, and her first meeting was going to be in San Diego. So my friend called me up and said, "Ian, could you write me a fanfare?" I said, "Well, what about?" He says, "Use this music, To a God Like This." Well, I'd never heard it. I didn't know it. So send me the music. So he sent me the music, and I played around with it, and it just came out naturally to that kind of fanfare style. So I wrote that, I sent it down to him, and he played it for Eva Burroughs to enter into the meeting. So,
it's a very interesting take on it. So I'm listening to your vocal stuff. I think I got His Exalted Shout of Joy and also Look Up, which is very interesting harmonically, because sometimes, I was listening to him at work, and I've known He Is Exalted obviously because Martin introduced me to the work, and it went the wrong way around. I heard the band arrangement before the vocal arrangement. Let's talk He Is Exalted. What's the story behind that? Because as you say, it's a vocal lollipop to me.
Yeah.
It's a lovely number, but it's got spirit behind it. Not that any of your other music doesn't have. But do you find you said you find the vocal easier to write? So do you find the vocal lollipops something that you get renowned for?
Yeah, He Is Exalted was that we'd written 2 or 3 other vocal stuff before that, but none of it was published. One of them I sent in, to get published, and it got sent back to me. Said, we can't publish this because the words are too trite. Well, Isabel had taken them straight from the Bible. So, and I've heard this before, you know, and then another one sent back because there was too many key changes in it. So, you know, things were happening. But He Is Exalted, then I was just sitting at the piano and came up with a little theme. And Isabel looked at it and said, oh, yeah, I could do something with that. She got a Bible out and went to the Psalms and, you know, started doing it. And I went on and she went on and we finished. I think we finished that one in about an hour. And it was done. And then the little opening part, da, 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 comes from another piece I'd written for Santa Ana, but slowly. I speeded it up and got my introduction that way. So, yeah, it all came together perfectly.
So when you get, I mean, outside of people phoning you up, and I'm sure it does happen, to say, can you write a song based on this, or, you know, if you've got something, can we have it? If you're sort of out shopping and you get a tune in your head and you're doing the piano, who are your guinea pigs for putting the music on the stand? I mean, do you have a local core band and Songs Brigade that you can go to and say, guys, guess what? I've got another piece. Would you mind? Before they run screaming out of the room.
Yeah, no, that's exactly how it works. And both Bill Gordon and I did that. You know, we'd come in every other Thursday. He had one, and then I had one, and it was just going crazy. But yeah, that's the best way to do it. Once you get over the initial shock of not sight reading it very well. So it's usually with vocal music, I can usually tell what it's going to be like anyway. It's not the same with band. I have a band on my computer that's very, she calls it a calliope, very calliope style. You know, it sounds like, all that does is tells me whether the notes are right, if there's any mistakes, but it's helpful. Yeah. So yeah, definitely do that.
Yeah. Do you ever remember, I mean, I'm guessing you have, you may not have, but when was the first time you were ever asked to conduct a piece of your music? Have you ever had, you know? Occasionally,
yeah, a couple of times. First time, I hate to say it, it must have been 2008. It was a long time for the band piece anyway. We were over in Australia. We'd done a program of our music in Perth, and then we were in Melbourne to do a program of our music with the Melbourne Staff Songsters. And Wednesday night we went to the Melbourne Staff Band to listen in. And Ken Waterworth turned around and said, "We're going to play this piece by you. Do you want to conduct it?" I said, "Okay, I'll try it." You know. So, you know, I just start them going and they play it and I finished it. There was another time when we were in Singapore. We spent 5 years on service in Singapore.
Really?
And, yeah. And the Household Troops Band came through. They were going to tour Australia, but they stopped over in Singapore. And John Mott had called me to see if I could arrange some concerts and stuff. So we did. We arranged a lot of stuff for them. So we're sitting in one of the churches, one of the choir, and they're playing a program of music, and he said, "We're going to play your Beyond the Blue flugelhorn solo."
Yeah.
Oh, okay. I've never heard it.
I can't trace a recording.
I said, "I've never heard it." And John turns to me and says, "Yeah, it's okay. We've never played it." Okay. He says, "Do you want to conduct it?" Okay, why not? So I conducted that, and also conducted the Household Troops Band in the British consul, the British embassy, whatever it's called. We were doing a concert there and conducted Morning Star there. So yeah, so, a few times.
Yeah. Is it an interesting experience as a composer and arranger to say when you go international travel and you're conducting meetings and concerts, and obviously the tonal differences and the way the music is portrayed is different. How do you handle that as a composer? Because if you get a song or a tune or someone says, "Can you set this to," or "Can you arrange this tune?" and you're unfamiliar with it, How, you know, if someone says, you know, the Japan staff band says, we want this Japanese arrangement, we want, you know, a Robinson arrangement of it. How do you approach that as a composer?
With great difficulty, you know, it's when someone asks you to do something specific and it's not within your norm that you're used to, then it's difficult to get into the mode. I have to think about it. Sometimes I have to listen to music in that genre before I can write anything, so I can get it in my
Yeah.
my mind and into my senses. So yeah, but usually I can get it in the end, and it's fairly decent, you know, reasonable.
Yeah.
Nobody ever says they don't like it, so.
So I mean, but I mean, you've said that you're more or less getting the reputation for being, you know, what I think a lot of composers say, a functional composer. That people, you're not writing these 10-minute long Albert Hall variational epics. Is that just something because you've never tried it, never wanted to, or is it kind of something that you'd love to try and do, even if you only do it once and say, you know what, I got that out of my system? Have you ever been tempted to do that, and you know, other things have got in the way?
The couple of times I tried to write something more substantial, but it just didn't seem to work. Sustaining the quality is hard. So I said to myself then early on, I said, stick to the short stuff, stick to the easy stuff. That's what they need anyway. Songsters needs music that's accessible to brigades of, you know, 10 to 40, you know. So that's what I thought about when I was doing it. Don't make it too difficult.
Yeah, I suppose also being functional. I think what the phrase that comes back to me is that if you're writing a functional piece, it's going to get used. If you're writing something for, I don't know, Carnegie Hall or the Royal Albert Hall, the Sydney Opera House, it's a big kind of epic, but it's written for that specific event with the voices and the instrumentation, and it kind of gets lost because unless you adapt it or score it down, then it's kind of oomph and just left on the shelf as a one-hit wonder.
Exactly.
So
I like my music to be used, so that's important to me.
Yeah. So I mean, if you're doing an original piece, whether it's brass or vocal, how do you? I don't use the word constrain, but if you're doing it original, you're not composing for someone else.
Right.
You've not got any. You know, it's not for the Melbourne Staff Songsters or the USA or the International Staff Songsters or Boscombe Songsters or whatever. You know, almost the sky's the limit. So there's no limit as to where you can go with it. So how do you sort of maintain your own sensibility on the music and keep it functional when literally you could go, right, Lord, this could go anywhere, and you've got all the sparks and all the whistles? How do you maintain the construct of a new composition?
I always use our own Songster Brigade and our own band, and I think of the limitations in those groups. There are certain things they can do, there are certain things they can't do. So I write for them. I write for the things they can do. Obviously, you know, when it's a band piece, I've got to be careful with the second baritone part and the second horn part and all that, second trombone. So they tend to, that tends to limit me. And so I keep within those limits. And we've got a good cornet section, solo cornet section. We've got a good bass section, a good euphonium. So I can write a little bit more difficult and complicated for them.
Yeah. Are you someone who ideas and themes coming? I mean, when you're going to the shops, walking the dogs, do you have a mobile phone full of audio memos that, you know, if you get a tune coming in your brain, you've got to record it so you can note it down later? Is it something, or do you have to blank it out? And
they do come, things do come to me when I'm out walking or, you know, like you say, shopping. But I don't write them down. I just keep singing them over in my head till I've got the phrase memorized. So when I get back home, I can remember to put it down. So that's what I do. And the more I sing it, the more I think, that's really not so good. Yeah, forget that one. Think of another one.
I think it was Look Up I was listening to, and I was really interested in the kind of the way the song develops. I mean, maybe it was just me and the way I heard it, but what do you remember? You know, there was something I love the fact that you're all got positive titles. You know, Shout with Joy, He is Exalted, Marching for Jesus, which I think is that's almost kind of got that Bramwell Coles ethos to it. I've not yet been able to trace a recording of it, but Marching for Jesus, I've got to ask, why are we marching for Jesus? What's the story behind it?
There was a movement actually called Marching for Jesus. That was going on as a worldwide thing at that time, and so they were, you know, doing this. I think it was churches. It wasn't the army, but it was churches that were doing it. So I got inspired by that. That's one of my least favorite songs, by the way. It's one of those I look at and say, why did they publish that one? I don't know. I've never heard anyone sing it.
Yeah. What is there a piece of your music, whether brass or vocal, that you continually get comments about and say, yeah, you know, if you got run over by a bus tomorrow, it'll be kind of, he wrote such and such. Is there a piece of your music that haunts you now?
Yeah, vocally is He is Exalted, the first one I got published.
Okay.
And that's the one I'm most known for. And people say, oh yeah, you wrote He is Exalted, da, 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 da. They just start to sing it. So that one, and Morning Star for the brass part, that's the one I'm best known for.
I love Shout with Joy though, because I think it's a wonderful piece.
Yeah.
And I'm looking at sort of, you got Clap Your Hands, Worship Lord, and then Sovereign Lord. So you've really got the titles. But how much do you sort of look at scripture, and how much of it is you kind of see okay, I've been looking at this song in the songbook, let's attack this differently and try and do it differently. What's the equation for you? Is it kind of original or
mostly original? I let Isabel, I let her do the words, so I don't look at the scripture. She'll be inspired by the music to look for the words. So I just concentrate on the music, original, make it as different as possible, and don't make it make it interesting. So that's what I'm focusing on when I'm doing the music, and nothing outside of that.
So can I ask, what was the last time that a piece of somebody else's music moved you as a Christian, and what was the music?
Well, a lot of Ken Downey's music does move me. But the one that's moved me the most recently, it was written a while ago, but is "I Know Thou Art Mine" by Len Ballantine, and I just love that. And it makes me goosebumps, and it brings me to tears every time we play it, because it's beautifully written, beautifully scored, and I love it.
Yeah, I just it's really interesting to hear how your musical experience has shaped you and stuff. So, is there any kind of composer who you thought you kind of emulate, or you think I really wish I could write something in his style?
Yeah, definitely. I mentioned this earlier. Ken Downey and Bill Himes. I love to be able to write in their style. So I try to do that, but not too obvious. I don't want to make it obviously a copy of their stuff. But they definitely are a very heavy influence on me. Jim Carno, Steve Bulla. Yeah. These are also Martin Corners and Andrew Wainwright. Yeah. They're both very much influential in what I write these days. Yeah. So I listen to the new guys as well, the Andrew Wainwrights and the ones that are coming up, and hear what they've got to write as well, so I can keep up to date.
Yeah, it's lovely. You mentioned Beyond the Blue, the solo. Now, it's 2007, but the Household Troops Band had played it on the tour. So just briefly, what's the story behind Beyond the Blue? Was that a commission, or was that something that just sort of eked out of the side when no one was looking?
Yeah, no, it was just exactly. It was just something I thought about, I thought it was time to write another kind of swing style piece. And so I started writing a normal piece, a solo. We had a good flugelhorn player in the band at Tustin Ranch. So I thought of him and I thought, okay, I'll write something that he'd be able to play and he might enjoy playing. So I did write that, and I was surprised when they published it, but yeah. But then I haven't heard it. Except once. I heard the Household Troops play it one time.
Well, I'll have to see the Household Troops band after Paul Drury or someone if they've ever recorded it. You've said about writing music and stuff, and when you're not writing music, what are your interests? When you have to let the brain settle because you've got a composition that's got to be done. What else do you do in your spare time?
I love to read. I read books, and right now, because we're on lockdown and I can't go anywhere, I'm reading book after book after book. So I'm enjoying that, and the different varieties. I like murder mysteries. I like I like religious books, Christian books. But not theology. I'm not that deep into. My wife is. She eats up the theology books. And I look at them, I don't even understand the title, never mind the book. And so I just think, okay, but it was, but regular, Christian books I do like to read. I like to lie in the sun, which we get a lot of.
You get a lot of that.
We get a lot of that here. We have a swimming pool and a jacuzzi, so I like to go in there. And I love to travel. I'm an inveterate traveler. And my wife, she likes to go places, but she likes to be there. She doesn't like the process of traveling, of getting there. I love the whole thing from when I start to think about it. I'm already on my vacation. I'm thinking, all planning it all out. So we've traveled all over the world, and I just love to do that.
Yeah. So bearing in mind that one of the reasons this weird project that I've been given has been because of the lockdown, has this meant that the compositional gene has had to be curtailed because everything else is being forced out in the house and the gardens and looking after the family? Or what's next what could we expect next from the compositional bench?
Well, I went through a period for a couple of years where I was depressed. I was in depression, and I wasn't able to write anything. I just wasn't interested. I didn't want to do it, which is probably just as well, because if I'd been writing when I was depressed, it would have been horrible. It'd been so terrible. So when I came out of the depression, when I managed to get the medications sorted and get some counselling, then I began to write again. And I've been involved right now. I've just written it in a project it's called the Lockdown Project, and it's Dave Edmonds put it together.
Oh, I've heard about this. Yeah, I've heard rumours about this.
Yes, he wrote to some composers and said, "I'd like to do 8 measures of music, and then pass it on to the next guy to do 8 measures." And I think Stephen Ponsford started it. So he chose to use the tune Ocals. And I was number 18 in the list. And there's 28 composers.
Yeah.
So I was number 18. So I got it from Kevin Larson. He'd done his. And you just try to carry it on and put some of yourself in it. And then I passed it on to Andrew McArath. So it's been very interesting to do that, to write that. Some of the guys the composers, Steve Bull and others, I've taken a liberty with the 8 measures. They've got 2 sets of repeats in there, and then they've got another bit at the end, and they end up with 20 measures. But I stuck to 8 measures and just carried it on from Kevin to Andrew.
See what it turns out to be like.
Oh, I see what it's like. 8 minutes long already, and there's still 10 more composers to go. It'll be a real eclectic piece. I don't think anyone's ever going to be able to play it.
Well, I know Dean Jones did something very similar a while ago with Marcus Venables and Steve Ponsford. And when I interviewed him, he said, I can look at the score now. He said, there was only 3 of us, and I couldn't pick out my notes anymore. So I think, it will be if it works, and I'm sure it will do because such wonderful, talented people. It'll be interesting to see what it comes out like. Have you got a favourite Salvation Army song?
Favorite song? My goodness.
I mean, I'll say Salvation Army first, and then I'll open up the field and say contemporary outside Christian song. But
favorite Salvation Army song? Probably the Reflections in Nature. What's the song again? I can't remember now.
Jesus Looked Over Galilee?
Yes, that one. I love that one. And then Ascalon, you know, Fairest Lord Jesus. That's probably my favorite. My favorite song arrangement is, oh gosh, Bill Himes. He did Boundless Salvation, which is a great arrangement. He did another one that I can't remember the title now, but I can't remember.
Mind you, he's written so much. It's, you know.
Yeah, I love the arrangement, and I want that played at my funeral.
It's always interesting to see what people want played at their funeral. I said to my mother the other day, because there was a program on the TV about the choices of funeral music as not just Abide With Me and, you know, Amazing Grace, and some people want We Will Rock You, some people want Elvis. And my mother turned around to me, she said, you know what I want at my funeral? I said, well, do you want Divine Communion and Marching Scipio? Because we played that endlessly in Woodbridge Band. And she went, I want the theme tune from Van der Valk. And I went, what I know is and she went, yep, that's the one. I went, okay, right. I don't know if anyone will know what it is, but it's very interesting.
Yeah, interesting.
Knocking me completely off my wing, Ian. I'm trying to conduct a sensible conversation here.
On that note, Isabel says she once played at her funeral the theme music for Star Trek Voyager.
Oh, gorgeous piece.
Yeah.
That is my era. I was in a fierce conversation with someone at a sci-fi convention, and they said, are you a Trekkie? I said, I'm not particularly a fan of Captain Kirk, but I grew up with Jean-Luc Picard, and then Deep Space Nine Voyager, so that's definitely my teenage years. Good choice on that music. Where's the weirdest place that you've ever had a comment sent to you about a piece of your music, either vocal or brass, being performed? Because we've had Romania, South Korea, Zimbabwe, New Zealand. I'm not sure why New Zealand. It's not a competition, but is there anywhere that just sort of shocked you that, golly, I didn't even know they had a band there, or, you know, they had the music there, or I don't know how it got there?
Yeah, I think Kenya, in Nairobi, they're
very passionate over there, aren't they?
Yeah, and they've used the music. They sing "He Is Exalted." They play, you know, Morning Star. So that place, South Africa, which was not South Africa, it's more traditional there. That's about the weirdest places. I don't think anywhere else. Nigeria. Oh yeah, Nigeria. Yeah.
It's really coming up. But are there any particular compositions of your own that you're really proud of? I mean, you say things like "He Is Exalted" and "Morning Star" are the proverbial millstones, but are there ones that you think, yeah, I can, you know, having written that, if I never write anything again, I'm happy with that?
Yeah, there's one. The one I'm most proud of is coming out in September. Well, it's actually going to be delayed now, but it's going to be published in Sing to the Lord, and it's called "Lord Find Us Faithful." And it's the words that Isabel wrote are phenomenal. They're fantastic words, and it just works for me. And it was written at a time when we were going through some difficulties with our son David, and it was our cry, you know, to Lord, find us faithful to worship you again. And so it was, that was the one I was most fond of.
Was it something that you found very conducive, that with Isabel doing the lyrics and you doing the music? Was that kind of, when you started doing vocal music, was that something that just you found worked, or were you aware that you had a natural partnership for lyric music partnership writing?
The way 95% of our music is music first, then the lyrics. I find it more difficult to write to lyrics that are already established, already written. So I write the music, which I have no idea what's going to come out of it, but I write the music, and then Isabel listens to it, and she gets inspired by the music, which is it was a great thing. And so we you know, that's the way we work. And writing, yeah, there's been some inspirations along the way.
Yeah. Do you have a favorite Bible quote at the moment? Does it change depending on the mood?
Yeah, it changes. Or is
there something that you can put on the fridge magnet from time to time?
Yeah. On our fridge magnet is the one I like is I can't cook, but I can kiss. I'm a good kisser or something like that. It's not a Bible verse, but that's typical of what we've got. I'm not ashamed of the gospel, Romans 2 something. I'm not ashamed of the gospel, for it is, you know, I can't remember. My memory is bad, so I don't recall verses very well.
No.
I was never good at Bible memorization.
No, I can never. I know what my favourites are, but I couldn't tell you where they are. I'd have to Google. Oh, it's there, is it? Yeah. And then it's a case of finding the version. That's not the version I'm thinking of.
Yeah.
So, yeah, it's been a very interesting thing to see how your development as a musician and as a composer has happened, and the fact you're very happy to do lollipops and functional music, and that you're still getting people come and say, could you please do something? Or, you know, the music comes. And how much of it nowadays is commissions and how much of it is natural stuff? Or do you prefer to let it organically come out, and then this is what's on the platform, if it's any good to you?
Yeah. With the brass music, it's probably half and half now. I get commissions, and Isabel's just handing me her phone with the Romans 1. It's not Romans 1:16, not 2:16. Put my glasses on. This is the verse.
Oh, okay.
For I'm not ashamed of the gospel, because it's the power of God that brings salvation to everyone who believes, first to the Jew and then the Gentile. Yeah. So there you go. That's my favorite verse.
Lovely. That's a lovely verse.
Commissions, I get half and half now. You know, To a God Like This was a commission. I've just written one at the end of last year. I was asked to write a duet, a cornet and euphonium duet for the Amsterdam Staff Band. Steve Klepke is a cornet player, and Michael Rosenquist, the euphonium player. So they wanted something. They hadn't found a good cornet and euphonium duet. So I did one for them, and it's fairly upbeat. You know, it's Isabel says it's frenetic, but it's not really. A lot of runs in it. That's all.
But
oh yeah, commissioning. We've written a couple of commissioning songs.
Okay.
We wrote one for the commissioning over here of the give us a light.
Yeah.
So we did the Give Us a Light. We did one in Singapore. Oh, this is a good one. We did one in Singapore. We just arrived in Singapore 2004, and the TC came to me and said, "I understand you write music." I said, "Yeah." So we need you to write a song for our cadet, a song for the Prayer Warriors. No, not Prayer Warriors. It was what was it again? Eh?
John the Baptist.
Yeah, it was Prepare the Way, Preparers of the Way.
Yeah.
The session. So I started to think about it, and I said, well, you know, how many cadets have we got? He said, well, we got one cadet, and he's Indian and he can't sing. So I have to write a song for a cadet who doesn't sing. Okay, well, we had started a choir we were living at the Peacehaven nursing home, and it was a huge nursing home. We had hundreds of nurses from Philippines and Myanmar and so on. And so the Filipinos loved to sing. So we started a choir for them. So I thought, I'll write it for them to sing. So that's what we did. We wrote, Prepare the Way, and they sang it for Harry, and surrounding him at his commissioning. And it was very nice. So I expanded it then to a full choral thing, and it's got a very Asian theme, Asian touch to it, with the accompaniment and all that. I sent it in, and they published it. I was surprised, shocked. They liked it.
I think commissioning songs tend to be, if they work and if they're doable, then they'll have a life. But I think some of them just get used and forgotten because they're so complex that no one outside of the session obviously has the time to pick it and learn it and go note by note.
And then it dies.
And then it just kind of goes. Whereas you've got the torchbearers and so forth, where it's so memorable and it gets picked up. And as you say yourself, you want to write stuff that people can use. There's no point writing something that isn't going to be picked up and can't be used. Were you sniffing something when you wrote that because I can't use it? So I'm being acutely aware that supper is being delivered. So I'm going to thank you very much for taking the time and volunteering your time to talk music, composition, experiences. I'm going to pray with you.
Yeah.
And just as you wish, participate. Dear Lord, again, it is a privilege and an honor to talk about this wonderful gift of music that you have given us in the Salvation Army, that the Christian Church has utilized. I just think in the Salvation Army, we are so blessed and we're so thankful for the array of composers over the years who continue to inspire. But for the composers of now, Lord, that look into the past, get inspired continually by your word, and also are very aware that the future is something we have to plan for, and we have to pick up the new idioms and the new motifs and the new music, and as Les Contemplation said, to serve the present age, to be able to play this music. I thank you for Ian, his willingness to follow you, his willingness to really want it to be used and not just left on the shelf, and to be very aware, Lord, that we are bringing the glory to you, Lord, and we're writing, and he is writing this because he feels it's important and that there is a message that you are putting on his heart. And that him and his wife, Isabel.
Yes,
thank you, Isabel, have accepted this wonderful gift, this wonderful spiritual gift and commission to be able to work together so beautifully to produce this music, and that it blesses people, and that in this international world, Lord, that we're not limited by the boundaries of the country, we're not limited by the boundaries of the sea or the ocean, that your music can be heard anywhere. And we thank you for the morning stars, the soons and very soons, that we are beyond the blue. We can shout for joy. We know that you are exalted. Sometimes, Lord, it feels that that's all that's being sung. But we know, Lord, that in every new note, in every new phrase, Ian and Isabel try to keep you at the centre, and we thank you for that. We pray for him, we pray for Isabel, we pray for the family, particularly at this lockdown, when the very normal sensation of cuddles, kisses, and the joyness and the familyness that we've taken for granted can't happen. So give us the strength to be able to cope when sometimes that word of comfort is all that's needed. But we know that your timing is perfect. So when the headaches come, when the stress comes, we know that we can turn to you, Lord. And I thank you for their faith in you, their willingness to continue to follow you, to serve you, to be guided by you in music, in word, in deed, in action, in their spirituality, Lord. And I just pray for them now, Lord. I pray for Ian as he continues to serve and to follow this compositional gene that is a subject of these talks, and that
Yes.
the experimentation continues, Lord,
Yes.
and that he's not afraid to try new things, but knowing that I think very much that they want to be used, that it's functional.
Yes.
And that's very much at the heart of his writing. We thank you, Lord, that he wants it to be used and to be used effectively for your kingdom's sake.
Yes.
And I just thank you for that, Lord. I thank you for his ability, for his time, his willingness to take part in this project. And I just wish and pray your choicest blessings and protection on him and his family at this time, Lord. Amen.
Amen. Amen. Thank you. It's been a pleasure, absolute pleasure. I've seen your name often in Facebook,
Oh,
but
God.
I didn't know